And we are live. Good evening, Instagram. I am excited to be here with you for another Cody's Circadian chat. Today, we're going to be taking an article from humanresourcesonline.net. Let me see if I can find out who wrote it really quick. Because sometimes these wonderful articles that I'm reading have an author that's easy to find, and unfortunately sometimes it doesn't, which is it's really sad. The publisher of every article should be seen. Hello, I see you there, Simo0015. How are you doing tonight? You doing good? I hope you're doing wonderful this evening. It's really late. I'm not used to starting this late, but I'm happy that you're online with me tonight. So feel free to chime in at any point, ask me any questions or anything you want to during this. Now, I've got a question for you. When you think leadership, is the first thing that comes to your mind health? Well, for most people, it is not, and yet health is extremely, extremely important, and that's why I picked this article for today. It's called Simple Hacks to Stay Healthy at Work. Because when I look at what really makes a human person, I think it's three main components. You have your mental aspect, which is your mind, how you think. You have your spiritual aspect, which is your passion, how into what you do, how you feel, what are your values. That's all part of the spiritual aspect. And then you have the physical aspect. And a lot of times in business, in leadership positions, people neglect the health aspect. And it doesn't have to be a lot you have to do. You don't have to be completely crazy nuts when it comes to health like me, trying to get ready to run a Spartan race this weekend. You don't have to go to that extreme. But there are a lot of things you can do that are going to really help you, just very small things. And so that's what this article talks about. One thing I loved about this article is it points out that this is Mental Health Week. So have mental health awareness. There are a lot of people out there who are currently facing major mental challenges. And we can do a lot to help these people just live a better life overall, just by knowing what is out there and knowing how can we act and help people who are going through these illnesses. So just keep that in mind. Now, they give three key tips kind of around the mental health aspect in this article. The first one is power in thought, which this is how they quote it here. Positive thoughts means positive attitude. Now, the thing about attitude is that attitude is a choice, right? You can have any attitude you want. Your attitude cannot be determined by another person unless you allow it to be yourself. So if someone does something you don't like, that's going to happen, especially when you're in a leadership position, because there are a lot of people who make a lot of decisions and it's not always the way you want them to go. But how you react to it and how you choose to act going forward, that's completely up to you. And so whether you have a positive attitude or a negative attitude, 100% your choice. And it has a huge impact on everything else that happens around you. There's a lot of problems in leadership around attitude, because something doesn't go according to plan, and when it doesn't go according to plan, the leader blows up, and it creates this very negative attitude which impacts everybody around them. And then it creates this negative feedback loop, right? Something bad happens, you react negatively, and unconsciously you create more negative things in your life. And so the way to get around this is when something negative happens, as the leader, stand forward, have courage, and figure out how to have a positive attitude regardless of what that nonsense is. Because any challenge can be overcome. Any problem has a solution. And if you understand this, every failure has a lesson. And if you understand this as a leader, you can overcome anything. And there's no need to have a negative attitude about anything. So that's one piece of it. stress-free zone, right? If you can create stress-free zones in your environment, that is a huge bonus, because we're in a day and age right now where stress is everywhere. And the thing about stress, and this is scientifically speaking we're talking about, stress can literally impact other people physically through electromagnetic fields. Like, this is science that if I'm feeling stressed, I can electromagnetically impact someone 3 to 15 feet away from me and cause them stress. And so the more stress-free areas you can create, the more ways you can reduce stress, the easier it's going to be for everybody around you. And that's actually I'm going through 3 certifications right now. And one of the certifications I'm going through, funny phrasing there. They highly get into how do you decrease stress. And so I'm really excited about working on that certification and bringing more of that information to you guys. The third thing around the mental health aspect that they're talking about in this article is flexibility is the key. And basically what this is saying is that if it's possible within your work environment, make it as flexible as possible. So one of the examples they say is with working hours, right? If you can make the working hours flexible, make them flexible, because that takes stress off the other person, that takes stress off of you. And so often, right, there's so much going on in people's lives, especially as they start to create a family, that if you have these very strict hours, you're adding stress to them, you're adding stress to yourself, you're adding stress to their families, you're adding stress to your own family. And if you can reduce it, just a little bit. I'm not talking like they come into work like 3 hours late. That's ridiculous, unless, like somebody died, someone got critically injured. There's always something that could potentially happen, God forbid. But things like that do happen sometimes. But if that's a regular thing, that shouldn't happen. But if they're 30 minutes late a day, or they call up and say like, hey, this thing came up, I'm going to come in an hour late. If you can just take that stress away from both them and yourself, it creates a lot better of a working environment. And I'm not saying that every single position in the world has that kind of flexibility. There are some roles that actually require timeliness in the idea that you have to be there at a specific time for a specific purpose. So that one's not going to be able to be applicable to everything, but the whole idea is that these are guidelines, right? And the more within the guidelines you can put things, the easier you're going to make things for yourself as a leader. Now, here are some interesting ones that I add on after that. 1, check your posture, right? This is a really big one. We're in a world right now that is extremely sedentary. And there's a later point about this where I'm going to get into this idea further. Basically what that means is we're sitting almost all the time, because like our ancestors, they had to go hunting and foraging for their food. They had to go find what was out there. So they were moving a lot. And so now that that's not a necessity, and we have the wonderful freedom to be able to sit more often, we've picked up some really bad habits. And one of those bad habits is posture, right? When you're crouched at a computer all day and you're kind of like this, it's really, really bad for you. And it's not just bad because like it has back problems, but there's actually psychological things that happen when you have bad posture. One of the easiest ways to see this, it's called a Superman pose, right? Or a superhero pose, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't really matter. Basically, you stand up like I'm standing right now, because I have a standing desk right now. You put your hands up like this, and you just stand here for about 5 to 10 seconds. That's all you really need. And what you'll notice is you start to get more energy just doing this. Your stress reduces. Now, why is it that when I stand up and do this, right, I get more energy? Well, there's this psychological mechanism that happens. that when your body fills up more room, right, your chest is up, your shoulders are up, you're taking up more area, your body recognizes it as kind of like an alpha signal, right? Like you're a top dog, like you're of importance because you're taking up more room. And so you're psychologically telling yourself that you're important when you do that. On the other hand, when you crouch in like this and you get really down here, this is close to a fetal position. And this is the type of position you do when you're in trouble, when you're stressed, when there's something wrong going on. And so when we're sitting at our desks like this all the time, and see, I'm even having trouble speaking when I do that, because it psychologically, there's triggers that are telling me that something's wrong. So I need to stand back up straight like this so I can psychologically get myself right. So when you're hunched over all the time, you're actually psychologically telling yourself you're weak. So if you can fix your posture, not only are there regular health benefits of sitting up straight, but there's psychological benefits too. So this doesn't really get into the psychological benefits, but they're huge. Another one on here, good food choices. We're in a day and age where food is extremely easy to obtain, but that food is not always good. There's a lot of terrible, terrible food out there, and I'll be honest with you, this is one I struggle with, right? I'm not here to tell you that I'm a master at eating healthy, right? This is really difficult in our day and age to do, but the healthier you can eat, the better energy you have overall. And this has been something I've been working on a lot this year, and I can tell you from last year to this year, my energy levels have tremendously increased, because one of the big things is because of these food choices. Now, this next point, they talk about get moving. Now, earlier I was talking about the sedentary lifestyle. So there's this idea that a lot of people have that if I work out for an hour or 2 hours a day, I'm physically in good health, right? And what the science is showing is that's actually not true, right? You can work out for 2 hours a day and still physically be unhealthy, right? That seems nuts because most people don't even try to work out 2 hours, right? If you go to the gym, most people are lucky to do 30 minutes if they're going to the gym at all, right? And so the question is, okay, well, even if I do this outrageous 2 hours at the gym, how can I not be physically healthy? And it's because of this whole sedentary lifestyle. Our bodies have evolved to be active, to be moving. And when you're not active and moving for long periods of time, you end up having major health issues. And so the question is, okay, well, I can't go work out 2 hours, but I have to be at work for, 6 to 12 hours, depending on what you're doing for work, for most people. How can I balance this, right? And in another one of the certifications that I'm working on right now, one of the things we've been doing a lot of is what we've been calling my Circadian rhythms, right? So we have different rhythms in our day. One of the most popular ones that we talk about is circadian rhythms, right? Which is daily, just like this live feed that we have going on right now. This is happening every single day. And so there are certain things that you do every single day. You wake up, you do some sort of morning routine, you go to work, you come back from work, you do some sort of evening routine, you go to bed, and then you start it all over again in the morning. That's your daily circadian rhythm that's going on. Now, my circadian rhythm, basically what that's saying is that we've been saying 1,000 seconds. I like to do 15 minutes myself, but it's around that time frame, anywhere from about, I would say, 12 to 20 minutes to get up and do something, right? Even if it's just a quick stretch like that, right? That's at least moving, doing something. And it's that little bit that you do every 12 to 20 minutes that actually keeps you from living a sedentary lifestyle, which means that you break the sedentary lifestyle so that you can have an active lifestyle. And it doesn't require you to go to the gym for 2 hours a day, which is not on most people's schedules anyways, right? So if you want to live a healthier life, very simply, just get up and move every 12 to 20 minutes. It's super simple to do, not difficult at all. And I'm not saying like go do a full workout in that time. Just do a stretch. Get up, stretch your back, stretch your arms across, maybe reach for your toes, whatever you want to do. Just in that every 15 minutes about. So the last one here is extremely important in this article. So this article talks about building relationships. Now, if you look at the countries with the longest lived people in them, right? They're called blue zones, right? They're basically where people have average lifespans of over 100 years, right? What they've noticed in those populations, the number one thing that they all have is good relationships. They create communities, and they're very close in these communities. In populations where you have the highest levels of depression, something that we're facing here in the United States a lot right now, what happens is we don't have those same types of relationships, right? In these blue zones, you have people who are in great community with other people. They're every day they're going out, they're having conversations, they're having fun, they're doing these activities with these other people around them. And right now in the United States, one of the big things we're facing is major depression. Why? Because people go to work, they're not friends with anyone that they work with, they do the work just to get the work done, they come home, they do whatever they do at home alone, not creating real relationships with someone, and then they do it again. And so basically, even though they're around people, they have no real relationships and they're cut off, which leads to major depression. And there's other things that lead to major depression as well, and there's psychological things, mental health illnesses that lead to depression, which is very different, right? But this is an epidemic that we're facing in the United States right now. It's literally in the news been called an epidemic. The epidemic of loneliness, like literally that's what it's been coined. And so in order to get around that, we have to look to build real human relationships. Now this has double power, because one, it gives you the power to live longer, right? And not only that, but actually enjoy doing all the things you're doing because you have these friendships, right? But the second thing is that as a leader, right, in order to reach your highest potential as a leader, you need to have these relationships with people. The better your relationships with the people that you lead, the stronger team you're going to create. And so not only are you actually giving yourself a health boost by creating the relationships, but you're giving yourself a leadership boost by creating these relationships. And so that's basically the ins and outs of this article with my little comments here. Definitely fantastic article, again, from humanresourcesonline.net. Simple hacks to stay healthy at work. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, you have any comments, you had things that you agreed with that you really liked, you had things that you disagreed with that you thought were awful, let me know. And I am excited to have another Cody's Circadian Rhythm tomorrow, so be ready for that. And no, I'm not giving you a specific time, it's just going to be sometime tomorrow, so be prepared. Whenever that live comes up, just be ready. So anyways, that's it for now. Remember, unlock your heroic potential, develop yourself into a legendary leader, and emerge into who you are meant to be.